Well, before I forget it, I better say something about another guy we had working up in Wichita Falls. That some of you engineers that might see this will remember Henry. Wise, Jesse Wise. I nearly forgot his name, Jesse Wise. Now, Jesse was the only single guy. And I can't imagine how old he was. He was older. Seemed to me like he was older than the rest of us. He was, if a lot of the engineers were only 4 or 5 years older than I was, 3 or 4 years. They were in World War II and I wasn't. But they could have been just a couple of years older than I and been there. But it seemed like Jesse was a couple of years older than them. He was kind of senior to most of the other engineers working there, and he was single. Jesse was single. And he was kind of I guess he's a nice looking guy to the girls. He was wiry and strong, looking. And we had a secretary named Phyllis McCarthy. Phyllis was another one of the characters, but she's a real nice girl. I'm sure she was a real nice girl. And she's a nice looking girl. No raving beauty or anything like that. She was just a nice looking, a pretty girl who worked as a secretary up there for the civil engineers, Phyllis McCarthy. Well, you can imagine that there was, Jesse had interest in Phyllis. Now, I don't know if he had any romantic interest, but it was just the fact that he was single and she was single, and they were in the office together. Well, another thing that was going on a lot was that the engineers that I worked with, I call them, they were all tall bed of pie engineers. Some of those guys had never made anything but an A since they started the school. They were the creme de la creme. They were the top. At those days, Hummel only hired the best from the best schools, and these guys were good. They were bright and very competitive. Very. Well, engineers don't sit around and see who can quote the most math formulas. They got to be competitive. That's reading with this playing tennis. Got very competitive on the tennis court. Well, that was one thing, but the office competition was something else. Especially if Dan Mandel, the main man, if Dan hadn't be out of the office, then there seemed like there was a little more tomfoolery going on than otherwise. The one thing I can remember that it came up, and like I say, Jesse was a very athletic-looking guy. He wasn't big, heavy. He was wiry, and I'm sure he was good in sports. But something was always coming up. Hey, can you do this? Well, I'd spent most of my life riding a bicycle. 3 million miles, wore out a couple of bicycles. I had legs like paratroopers wished they had. But they didn't show. I was just another kid. Sherfsey came in one day, and he had just finished. He was in his 40s, like 41 or 42, and I was like 22 or 23, 24 years old, something like that. And because he's like 20, 25 years older than I was. And he had wrangled a position at the paratrooper school as a reservist, and he went through paratrooper training and graduated as jumping out of airplanes. And he talked about the average age in his group was like 19 years old, and he's in his 40s. So most of them were like 17, 18 years old. And he had, we like to do these things when you have an audience. And he had an audience with all these engineers standing around one day, and he's telling them, we had to do 50 deep niggy bends. 50. And everybody going, oh, wow. And I said, I'm the kid, say, with the bicycle legs. I said, so what? Sheriff said, he pulled out $1 and he said, $1 says you can't do 50, my young friend. So I just squatted down 50 times and picked up the $1. He said we also had to do a deep knee bend on one leg. $1 says you can't do a deep knee bend on one leg. I had just finished 50. So I could do that easy. You stick one leg out like this, right back up, picked up his $1 and put it in pocket. I said, is there any other tricks y'all did? Fox, get out of there. Ain't you got some work to do? One day, Sheriff C walks into my office. Sheriff C was about 6'2", I guess. I was even 6. And Dan Bader was about 6'2". But Dan was heavyweight. Well, in those days, Dan was either going up or going down on a diet, He was either gaining weight or losing weight, and he was working at it all the time. And Dan is one of these competitive guys. Sheriff C walked in there right by. We had just had to put devices on our fluorescent fixtures above our head that came out of law and said you couldn't just have bare bulbs up there because if they fall out, there's gas in them, they're going to be hurt, big lawsuits. So we had to put these, what we called egg crate deals up there to keep those bulbs from falling out. Egg crates, we called them. Sheriff C walked in and he said, hey, Fox, can you do, because see, by now, it's always, Fox, can you do this? But no more betting $. And he stepped back and kicked and rattled that egg crate, which had to be about 6'4" from the floor, a couple inches over his head. Well, that's about 4 inches over my head. So I stepped back and I rattled the cage. Nobody says anything. But now there's going to be others. Every other engineer now has got to do it. Well, pretty soon it came to Dan Bader. Well, Dan, he was carrying a little extra weight, that particular day. And he stands up there and he kicks and misses. Wait a minute, hold it. He stepped back. And he kicks again and misses. Wait, I gotta get ready. Now he reaches down and he pulls his britches up so there won't be any bind on his leg. Get the britches, they get all pulled up like that. And he steps back. And he's almost got a running start. And he brought that right leg up with such vigor, enthusiasm, determination, and foolishness that he pulled his left one off the ground. He kicked himself in the air, missed the egg crate, and fell flat on his bottom. Well, they felt, I think it scored about 3.5 on a Richter scale. They felt it down on the first floor. They thought an elevator had fallen. Now, I'm sure that my friend, Dan Bader, if he sees this, he's going to deny all of the above. But I was there. I saw it happen. Sorry, Dan. But you didn't make it that day. You may have gone on practice. I don't remember now, but I know one day Jesse Wise was in there and somebody, can you do this? We had those wooden dowels. They were maple dowels or birch dowels. hard and long that you rolled a map on. And Jesse had one of those, and he would held it out like this and said he could jump through it, both feet. Hey, Fox, can you do this? Now, this is for Phyllis to see. Well, he didn't know, but that was one of the tests we did out at the Midwestern. I had won top honors at Midwestern, and the president's physical dexterity exercise or something they had going. And one of the things you had to do was, can you jump up in there and do a 360 circle? And I remember that. And this thing was one of the things that we did, only we didn't do it with a stick. And what we did is you hold your right foot with your left hand and jump your left leg through it. And if you're really good, you can jump it backwards through it. So when Jesse says, can you do this with the map stick? Yeah, I can do that. I jump through it, and then I jump backwards through it. Oh, that's a challenge. Well, Jesse was up to it, and he jumped backwards through it. And I said, hey, Jesse, try this. And I reached down and grabbed my right foot and jumped my left foot through it. You ain't got much room. Well, now see, I never thought about this. These guys are smart guys. These engineers are brilliant. They're smart guys. I never thought of what was going to happen next. It never occurred to me what was about to happen. I couldn't imagine it happening. And Phyllis is watching. Well, I hadn't got anything tied up in Phyllis. I'm a married man, but here's a single man and a single girl, and I'm about to make him look bad. So he reached down there and pulled up his right foot, and he jumped. No, he didn't. He tried to jump his left foot through the opening. He didn't make it. That left foot caught on his right ankle. Now, I would have thought, when you see it ain't going to make it, you turn loose of your right ankle before you hit the ground, right? This tall beta pie, he hit the floor, still holding on to that, with all his weight on that left foot on his right ankle. He like to broke his ankle. Well, that was it for the day. Never mind. It was very competitive. And it carried on, especially when we went down to coffee. Now, when you have coffee with a bunch of tall beta pi engineers, you better watch out. Dan Bader liked to come up with different ways of paying. See who pays for the. He came up with one. I don't know what he called it. There's a thing we called a queen bee. I don't remember what a queen bee is, but I remember this one. He said, now I'm going to write down on this piece of paper a number between 1 and 100. Folded that. He said, now then, we'll start right here, and we'll go around the circle. There was 4 or 5 of us at the table. Everybody guess a number. And I'll say too high or too low. Everybody has to guess a number. When it comes around to me, I'll take a number. Of course, I know what to guess. And the last one, when it gets down and there's only 2 numbers left, the guy that has to take this number pays for the coffee. Well, that sounded like it's an advantage to him, but it's really not, because he's got to take a number too, He may be the last one unless somebody. Anyway, so we go around, and first thing you know, somebody had guessed 50, And the guy next to Dan said 48. The number had to be 49, and that's what was written on the tag. But quickly, now here's this brilliance right here. When one guy said 50, and he said that's too high, and that guy said 48, he said that's too low. Well, everybody knows all that's left 49, and he's got to guess. That's when Bader came up with. Now, I forgot to tell you guys, of course, you know you can guess half numbers. No, no, that don't float, that don't fly. You ain't getting by with that. Of course, you know you can guess half numbers. Dan, I hope you remember that because that was a good one.